Hi everybody, this is a blue and red Arcane Bombardment deck. We're looking to throw around a lot of spells in the early game, skip over the mid game a little bit with some mana development, and then in the late game, really kind of take over with things like Burn Down the House, Faerie Slumber Party, and Arcane Bombardment to reuse all of our spells and do it all over again. So I wanted to try out Faerie Slumber Party specifically, but upon reading it, it's kind of hard to build up a board state that can finish a game. It's a great utility card to have because sometimes your opponent's things can't be targeted with the things we've got in a blue and red deck, and so it's nice to just be able to bounce anything and get a couple of flyers on the back end. But as you can see, if you repeatedly cast this, you just kind of reset your own board state to 2 blue flyers, and it doesn't quite have as much punch as something like Burn Down the House does in this kind of deck. So we're trying one of in here because it looks super fun. I've also got Invasion of Arcavios to dip into the sideboard for some utility stuff. We're looking at Farsight Ritual to go along with Big Score as one of our main card draw spells. Really liking this one so far, and we do have the option to bargain it if we've got extra treasures laying around. Then we've got Baral and Kari Zev here to cast some free spells. Flick a Coin, which is a kind of nice sort of filler 3-drop spell. The 3-drop spot can be kind of flimsy in an Arcane Bombardment deck, and this is just a nice catch-all, kind of does a little bit of everything type of spell. I'm also trying out Quick Study for some instant card draw, and then old Emmett Otterton over here, the Frolicking Familiar. It's got a 1-mana instant adventure for some handy damage, but then if we can get one down and we've got a bombardment going, the Otter gets really huge once we start stacking up all the spells with bombardment. Then over here in the 2-mana spells, we've got a couple of copies of Freeze in place. Kind of buys us a little bit of time and lets us scry on the top of our deck. And then we're trying out Scalding Viper, another adventure creature that can bounce a permanent to our opponent's hand at sorcery speed, of course, and then hopefully get in a little bit of extra damage with its secondary ability. So let's get over and see a few games with this deck over on the ranked standard ladder and see if we can get old Emmett to work for us. All right, so not a bad starting hand here. We've got 1 bombardment. We've got our Otter with an adventure on it. Could be good for picking off some early things if our opponent's got that for us. Let's get down the Shivan Reef. Not too many tap lands in here to worry about. And I am interested in trying out Flick a Coin as well. Got to say that one carefully. Ooh, that's a good draw. All right, I think we're going to play Baral here because that could enable us to do Flick a Coin, and then I think it will let us cast the spell side of the Otter for free. Get a little extra value off of here. This must be some kind of like Grixis Legends list. I'm unfamiliar, but that's kind of like one of the... Oh no, something totally different. All right, Reckless Handling. So they're going to search for an artifact. Agatha's Cauldron. Creatures with +1/+1 counters have all the abilities of something exiled with the Cauldron. All right. So I think I've seen this as a kind of combo deck. Usually involves tapping for lots of mana. So let's do Flick a Coin. Baral activates. There we go. We can cast the Otter. 1 damage apiece. Let's get rid of the thing that puts +1/+1 counters on itself. And lets our opponent see some extra cards. Baral's got Menace, so we just get right in there. Bring our opponent down to 18, since it can't be blocked. Opponent uses Rona to loot some lands away. All right. And then they've got Go for the Throat for Baral, which is unfortunate, but it's fine. Celestus the draw here. Well... They've got 2 mana open. There could be a multitude of reasons for that, but let's just try for the Celestus here. And then let's try to play out our Otter. Play the Familiar and see... Okay. They might... Oh, it's a Go for the Throat. Worried about the counterspell. Always a little suspect of the player with blue mana available at 2. Rona looting here. This must just be more focused on the combo, not so much on disrupting the opponent. Cormella, that is a creature that can add some mana to your mana pool. All right, well, they're tapped out. Now's our chance for bombardment. It's also our opponent's chance to do whatever combo they've got going on. All right, well, Rona gets transformed and we take 7. That's Probably enough of a combo on its own. I'm going to discard Big Score to the Celestus. Take a look at Rona. Okay, so when it gets damaged, they get to nab a card out of our hand. I think I'm okay with that because we're casting the best one right now. We get Flick a Coin. We'll point that at our opponent. Burn down does the damage. And yeah, take your pick there, opponent. Okay, so they're going to get back. I think that's the X spell that creates rats. They get that back with Cormella, and they end up with the land from our hand. I'll take it. Celestus goes off. Don't think we're going to need the second bombardment, but we've got too many big scores as it is, so let's get rid of that. Another Grifter that can connive. Also been interested in trying the new black mana enchantment removal spell, just as a like 1 or 2 copy spell in my deck. Okay, now opponent's going for the Cauldron. Is this where the magic happens? All right, they use the Cauldron. They're going to exile Cormella. And then the counter trigger happens. They're going to put that on the creature that can connive here. But they've only got the rat spell left in hand. All right, let's do Flick a Coin then on this creature. We might be able to pick up something to kill it, but we might not. We just need to keep going here. Well, that could do it. Let's go burn down the house then on damage. We'll Flick a Coin, the remaining one, at the opponent's face. Pick up a Shivan Reef. Get rid of that creature. All right. Well, let's play the Reef. Freeze in place. Not going to be that great against this opponent, as it is a sorcery. So let's go Big Score. We can discard that card right now. We're going to pick up some Devils. Flick a Coin at our opponent. We draw a land. Get our Devils. Big Score finds us even more lands. That is a tragedy. Let's attack for 3, get our opponent to 10. And I think we're going to use the Celestus. Trade in one of these lands. All right, we get one of the new Restless Creature lands. And then because we did so many spells, Celestus will happen again and gives us the Frolicking Familiar. We are on the hook for this rat spell. Yeah, it looks like they may be going for it here. X is 6, opponent creating 6 hasty rats that cannot block. Goes to exile a creature and wants to put a counter on the rat. Well, I say no, we're going to use the Otter to destroy that rat before it gets the counter and before it can start hastily making mana for our opponent. We pick up Big Score off of Bombardment as well. And our opponent's seen enough. All right. Good game. All right. Another decent starter here for this deck. Thanks, Arena. You never know what you're going to get from Arena. Normally, Impulse could dig us out of our hole, find us another land, but it might actually find us something useful. Ooh. The Ozolith. Kind of like the design of that card. It cycles itself away. Puts on a couple of counters. Opponent's got a Jewel Thief here. Pretty good rate on that card, although it gets overshadowed by a lot of things in Standard these days. Not a lot of room for just like solid 3-drops. I'm going to take the Celestus here, because we can go that into the Celestus, pass it on back. And then we can be online for Bombardment a little bit earlier, maybe Invasion next turn, or if we draw Burn Down the House, we'll be ready for that one. Because I don't quite know what the opponent's doing here, but it looks like they are promising to smack us in the face with some big creatures. We take 5 from the Jewel Thief as it gets counters from the Ozolith, and we draw Burn Down the House. That is an easy choice. Try to keep this board clear so they can't stack too many counters on things. Because if they get out of reach of burn down the... Ooh, okay, Defiler comes down for our opponent. Speaking of things that are too big for burn down the house. All right, well, I think we have to go for Bombardment here and take the risk of eating a bunch of damage on our opponent's next turn. Because we need to start getting some extra value out of our spells and doing multiple things. Ooh, boy. It's an 8/8. That brings us to 7 with that attack. All right, luckily the Celestus gives us a little bit of life back, but only shows us flick a coin, so we'll discard that. Stormcarved Coast. Okay, got to think about this one a little bit. There's a burn down the house in the grave, but it's not enough to get rid of this creature. We can go looking in our sideboard. We can take an Invoke, but that doesn't help us until next turn. All right, I think we got to invade here. We'll search our sideboard, and I think what we want to take is this March of Swirling Mist. We just need a little bit of time. I was kind of between March and Fading Hope in this sideboard spot, when you need to just have a cheap effect to buy you some time. But looking back on it, you can't really recycle March very well with Bombardment. Okay. Well, hopefully we can dodge like a Tamio's Safekeeping here. We're going to have to march on our opponent's creature. We'll submit 0. They've only got 1 target, and we can pay for it. That activates Bombardment. All right, we get burned down the house, but can't wipe away that creature, so we're just taking Devils, and that phases out. They did not have the protection spell, and Scrap Gorger the follow-up. Well, not something I like to see either, as it can pull our best stuff out of our graveyard. We're going to play the Coast. And I think Farsight Ritual is kind of what we need to do here. So I know we've got some like stun spells. I think we've got 1 copy of Fading Hope that we're playing. And we can bargain away. Let's bargain away a token. These devils aren't helping too much right now. And we'll throw it at the battle, or maybe the Gorger. Okay. Yeah, we'll just throw another one at the Gorger. Why not? Make some devils here. All right, and the Ritual, it's going to take us 8 cards deep in the library. Lots of choices. I think our best ones are actually going to be these lightning strikes. We might get in a situation where burn down the house happens and we need to finish something off with a lightning strike. No attacks. That'll at least give us a little cushion for blocking. We will take advantage of the Celestus. I'll pitch this land. And see what nasty stuff our opponent's got for us. Okay, they use the Ozolith, but on the Gorger, well, that's still in range of this burn down the house, so let's see what happens here. Kind of worried about those 2 remaining cards in hand. All right, just decides to attack with the Defiler. Let's throw some devils in its way. All right, any combat tricks? No. Okay. Well, let's lightning strike the Defiler. Like, I really need that to go away, so I think we're going to do a little overkill here. But, all right, so Bombardment is happening. Let's go Farsight Ritual, the non-bargain version. We'll flick a coin at our opponent's face. Burn down the house on 5. So with the devils... Yeah. I may have jumped the gun on that, but I really wanted to be sure we kind of got this damage off rather than go to blocks and somehow lose to weird side effects from trample damage. All right, Farsight gives us 2 cards. We will take the Scalding Viper and burn down the house. Another Scrap Gorger from the opponent. right, passes it on back. Yeah, I think we're going to do this. We're going to Lightning Strike the Gorger right now. Keep them from having anything to put counters on, and also save our graveyard. Ooh, we get the Slumber Party. Well, let's go burn down the house here. We know we've got some devils hanging around in our bombardment already. We kind of need to put the speeds on here. Opponent's got lots of mana. We'll go Ritual again, flick a coin again. Let's point some things at this invasion. We'll take a land and an impulse. Lightning Strike happens. We've got 6 devils on board. I'm going to point some of these at the invasion and flip that over, and we'll point the other 3 at our opponent's face. And opponent's had enough. All right, good game. We're going to keep this. So my logic here is we've got enough lands for now. We can play the Viper on 2 if we're desperately needing a blocker, but then we've got Flick a Coin on 3, just in case we need to cast this Impulse. Opponent's got an Invasion of Tarkir. All right, so they're definitely going to be moving quickly to point some direct damage at our face. Any dragons? No, no dragons, just the 2 damage and a battle. A promise of more dragons later on. I think what we're going to do then is go Scalding Viper, skip the adventure for now. This can be a good blocker if they've got a hasty creature. Could make them... Oh, they're looking at it. What do you got? Okay, play with fire. I showed you. That cost you 1 life point. But at least that's a play with fire that didn't get pointed at our face for the invasion, but they've got another Invasion of Tarkir to follow up. And they do 2 to the pre-existing invasion. All right. So we're probably gonna see some dragons at some point. We draw the island, so that's great for us. Flick a Coin and Impulse are instants available here. They're running Kumano. But not a whole lot of other creatures. I bet that works with, if you time it right, I bet that works if you flip the invasion. Let's go Flick a Coin, keep drawing. Make a little treasure for ourselves. We draw Shivan Reef. Looks like the opponent still has some instants in hand. Try to keep that in mind. Play out this mountain. I think what we're going to do is go Impulse. I think we can wait and see what our opponent does, because I know we're probably going to end up needing this burn down the house to take care of some dragons that they're going to get off of this invasion. So I think we're just going to hold tight for 1 more turn. All right, there's a Lightning Strike, so that can flip over that invasion right now. Thunderball. All right, so we could get in a good... I think we could time this very, very well. All right, so Kumano on 2. Land, they're down to 1 card. Looks like they can flip over this battle, or this invasion, get another dragon if they really want to. It's a tricky balance. It must be if you're a red deck, you've got to balance hitting the opponent's face versus getting the value back out of the invasion that you played. All right, so with the dragon's trigger, that's definitely enough to flip it over. Come on, D's, wake up. All right, spell goes to exile. They cast the dragon, and it does work with Kumano. Okay, yeah, because you do cast it like a regular spell once you flip it over. Okay, that's it from the opponent. We're gonna go Impulse right now. Ooh. All right, good choices, but we're going to take a play with fire here because we know that we're going to cast Burn Down the House this turn, right? So yeah, 5 for Burn Down the House. Our opponent's going to be left with a flipped Kumano on their turn. Great. Dragon's taken care of, and so now when we lay down our next land next turn, we will immediately have enough to activate Arcane Bombardment and hopefully get things going right away. We're thinking a couple of steps ahead today. We've got a little coffee going. Arcane Bombardment. Opponent's on mono red, so no cheeky enchantment removal. If we can get this down, we should be off to the races. And opponent scoops it up. All right, good game. All right, this is a tricky one, but we're going to keep it. We got some nice basic lands. We're going to start off pretending like we've got to play with fire in hand. We don't. Leyland number 2, most likely impulsing. We got our little otter friend here. Slot you down there. Ichor Drinker. All right. Probably see some Phyrexians. Ugh, yep. Crawling Chorus. One of the more annoying ones. Let's see. I'm really tempted by this Baral, but I also really need land. And Baral would be great, but if we draw an untapped land off the top, which is not always guaranteed for me. Of course. Okay. Well, I miss you now, Baral. We're going to play out the Spire, pass it on over. Options for this turn, we've got the spell of the Otter here in our hand, and Lightning Strike. Our opponent's got a Grafted Butcher coming down, too. Everything is lining up. All right, so let's use the Otter and do 1 damage to the Chorus. It's going to create a Might that at least can't attack this turn. And they're able to hit us for 2 with one of these Drinkers. So we're going to play land number 4. Let's go for the Farsight Ritual here. We really need to keep the lands coming, so let's go land. Pass it on back. We are on the hook for a big chunk, but then we are also guaranteed our burn down the house next turn. Oh. Okay, I was budgeting for 8 damage. Looks like we are taking 12. That brings us to 6 and gives us 1 poison counter. Play with fire the draw. All right, well, I think it's burn down the house for sure. They're going to be able to get some of these butchers back, and they're also going to be able to incubate with these drinkers, which is super annoying. Oh, a Vron Executioner Thane as well. That could give them some reach, so we're going to have to be real careful with that. Can't let things die while Vran is on the board. All right, and Butcher takes 4 mana, so if they want to bring the Butcher back, it's going to take essentially their whole turn. Let's go ahead and use Lightning Strike on this. And then I think we can also just play Emmet as a blocker. Keeping the play with fire in hand over the Lightning Strike here to potentially Arcane Bombardment and activate it. Okay, so opponent flips over an Incubator token, incubates again with the remaining Drinker in the yard. All right, Emmet, do some blocking for me here. We're kind of desperate. I was hoping to pump you up a little bit, but I think if we go Bombardment here, pass it back, we can save our play with fire and our spells for the next thing that our opponent does. All right, they flip the Incubator, but we're prepared for that. We've got play with fire. All right, and a Butcher, so we're going to have to do this now, I think, before that comes down. Just so we can guarantee we're not taking any damage. Great, and we get a Farsight Ritual. We will take 2 Lightning Strikes for sure against this deck. And now Butcher is on board, but nobody to play with. Quick study our draw. Could be good to see a few more options, I think. We do have this Lightning Strike in hand. All right, we get Impulse and Farsight Ritual. A lot of card draw so far. I'll take a Spire and an untapped land. And then I think let's get a Viper from this Impulse. Opponent's at 28. It's not like we're going to cheese him out of the game with some Lightning Strikes just yet. We kind of need to survive, get some better things under Bombardment before that goes away. We'll discard that Spire too. Okay, what do you got? Oh, another Vron. Well, I need the attacking creature to disappear then before Vron comes down. All right, we will do Play with Fire to the opponent's face, get some scrying. We will Impulse, and we've got a lot of spells. I'm going to skip the Farsight for now. Let's take another Otter. It's time for some Otter Vengeance. Okay, and now Vron comes down. Okay, so we need to... Oh, and there's a chorus too. Okay, I think that's fine, because if we point this Lightning Strike at Vron, it won't trigger. And then we should be free to deal with the rest of this stuff. Oh, no. So they sacrificed Crawling Chorus as part of the cost of Corrupted Conviction, so we don't think we could have responded to it there. All right, well, let's get Vron out of here now. No more of that. We're down to 4. And... do we do this now? No, let's just pass. I think we can deal with it with what's under bombardment, but... Well, we'll just use it to activate bombardment, and then we got access to the Otter side, of course. All right, so Lightning Strike at our opponent, who is at 29. We're going to go Play with Fire on them as well. Let's take Big Score. No, I think Freeze, actually. Just in case they've got anything bigger. That would make me feel a little bit better. Okay. All right. Otter, now is your turn. We got some mana available. We've got a few things stacked up under bombardment, so I'm hoping this guy can get pretty big. Bloated Processor. All right, so when that dies, it's going to be able to incubate something anyway. Kind of want to get our value out of bombardment for the turn. Let's do Flick a Coin at our opponent. That makes the Otter a little bigger. We're going to go Lightning Strike on the Processor. Strike on our opponent. Play with Fire on our opponent. We'll do Impulse, and let's decline the Ritual here. We got a lot of cards. Wow, so the Otter's already a 7/7. Pick up a Burn Down the House. Got some burn going to our opponent. Let's resolve that. Suppose we could have pointed the Play with Fire at this Processor, but you never know kind of what combat tricks they have. One card remaining in that hand of theirs, and they decide to incubate now. But I think we'll be okay with that. So, what we're going to do, I think if we go Scalding Viper, all right, an opponent sees it coming, big ol' Otter. All right, this looks interesting. We got a couple of new cards in here. Let's try it. Opponent starts off with a green. We're going to go Restless Spire. Follows up with an Invasion of Ixalan. All right. I have no idea what this is, but I can respect that. Opponent reveals a Thrun. That could be difficult. I think a lot of our stuff targets. And we got a ways to go before we can get to the general board wipes, like Burn Down the House. Tribute to the World Tree. I've had a bad time against that card in the past. Let's use our spell side of Scalding Viper. We will steam clean that enchantment back to our opponent's hand and buy us a little more time. That card is nutty value. You get so much off of playing each of your creatures. It's wonderful. For our opponent, I mean, not for me. We're going to play Shivan Reef here. We could do Viper and then just pass. Or we could leave mana up for this Farsight Ritual. I think the Ritual's just better. Opponent has showed us a Thrun. Another Invasion of Ixalan. Okay. Goes looking at the top 5, gets another permanent. It's another Invasion of Ixalan. All right, we'll just roll it on again. What are we seeing here? Okay, just a forest. All this development makes me a little nervous about a Titan of Industry coming down, but at this point there's not much we can really do to prevent that. Let's take big score and a burn down the house. Play out land number 5. And I think just pass here. This is a good opportunity to big score while there's not much on the board. Could have played a Viper, but yeah, it looks like our opponent is sort of kind of like a big stuff deck that just hasn't found some of the stuff yet. So Invasion of Zendikar pulls out 2 lands for them. Let's use this opportunity to big score. I'm going to put away the Slumber Party. We can pluck it up later if we find Bombardment. And our opponent doesn't have too much right now that needs to be returned to the hand. Excellent. We find Arcane Bombardment off this Impulse. We've got enough mana to play it now, but I kind of want to get the Otter going. And I love that I get to say that phrase in Standard now. I think this set brought us, what, there's like 2 other Otters in there, I think? At any rate. All right, the long-awaited Thrun is coming down. Able to draw off of their enchantment. Mana left available, but nothing else going on as we pick up a Lightning Strike. Well, I think now is our chance. Let's do Bombardment. And free... Oh, that's right. Oh, I don't think we're able to target Thrun there. Okay, well then let's wait. There's not much under Bombardment. We're not guaranteed to pick up like a big score if we cast something this turn. Oh, and our opponent's got the Depopulate. Takes out the Otter, but Thrun is safe because he's indestructible on our opponent's turn. That's going to leave them free to go in and attack a battle if they want to. No, just our face. Trying to close this one out quickly. Drops us to 15. Well, let's go Lightning Strike on our opponent then. Let's see what we can start piling up under this enchantment. Ritual. We'll just do regular Ritual, I guess. We'll take Baral and Fading Hope. Could be good, just not against a Thrun. Play out this land. Yeah, let's burn down the house then. We're going to make some devils. Ooh. And we'll cast a Slumber Party and a Farsight Ritual. We will pick up a Quick Study and a Lightning Strike. Slumber Party happens. Thrun goes away. We get a couple of fairies. 3 devils. And bring our opponent to 9 with that. Wow, so Slumber Party under the Bombardment, they might not be able to land a spell again. So let's get Baral down. We know they don't have too many creatures, and we can use this Fading Hope to activate Bombardment if we need to. Ah, White Sun's Twilight. Okay, maybe this is a little more control-oriented than I'm thinking. So, how's this work? All right, so if they get small creatures, the creatures get +1/+1 counters. But do we care? I don't think we do. I think we just point the devils at our opponent. Because the creatures don't have haste. They're out of mana. So everybody gets counters. That's great. But we've got Fading Hope to activate Bombardment, which should still have the Slumber Party under it, right? Oh, does that give us like a crazy amount of creatures? Oh, no, still just 2. Just 2 fairies for us. Let's Farsight because we can. Pick up a second Bombardment and a coin. Lightning Strike brings our opponent to 11. Slumber Party gets rid of all those mites, and we get a couple of fairies here who are going to be able to immediately attack. And I think to add... Nope. All right. Well, good game.